Welcome to 15 with Christine. Our special guest this week is Rick Dykes, founder and owner of Congevity, and my friend. So let's get started. On 15 with Christine, we talk about all things business growth. And before we dive in, I want to let you know where you can find the live broadcast. I'll come to you live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Hit the subscribe button and you won't miss an episode. My goal with 15 with Christine is to introduce you to people who can help you grow your business and grow your career. And I'm excited this week to talk with Rick Dykes, the owner and founder of Congevity. Welcome, Rick.
Thanks for staying. It's good to be here.
Rick, one of the first questions I always like to ask is, to tell our listeners your story. What brought you to where you are today, to the point of starting Congevity?
Yeah, that's a good question. I love the kind of where did you come from and, that kind of origin story question. You never know really where to start it. But I kind of go back to, I grew up in a really small town, kind of like literally a town of like 2,000 people. So, and I don't even think it's 2,000 people anymore. I think it's gotten smaller since then in South Mississippi. For the first several years of my life, first probably 10 years of my life, my dad was in the military. We moved around a lot, and which was great. It gave me a diversity of experience. But then we settled back in my parents' hometown of Richton, Mississippi, which no one's ever heard of. If it sounds like something you think you know, it's a different town that you're thinking of. I've had that discussion many times. And so growing up in Richton, I kind of always I had kind of bigger dreams. I wanted to do something different. So was the first person in my family to go to college. Even in college, I ran a couple businesses. Like literally, I went to college in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Its nickname is the Hub City. So I started.
I did too.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I forget that. And so I started Hub City Lawn Care. I ran a little lawn care business. And so, I've always been entrepreneurial. And so that's always been my background. Going into my senior year of college, I got invited to come hear about this opportunity, which turned out to be an introduction into the insurance financial services business. And that summer, going into my senior year, I got my life insurance license, my health insurance license, and my securities license to do investment work. And that was my introduction to it. That was in 2005. So 17 years ago now, I started doing this. And so I've just been connected to the financial services business. And then along the way through that entire journey, of course, this is the short version of the story, but I've also been involved in ministry, off and on, either full or part-time, alongside the financial planning journey from the beginning. So for 7 years, I was full-time in the investment business and had built a pretty successful, career in it. I liked what I was doing. And then left that to be full-time in the ministry. In fact, I was a pastor at a large church here in Birmingham, Church of the Highlands, for 5 years. Had a great time doing that. Led a very impactful ministry that was really a privilege to be a part of. Hugely impactful ministry with a lot of great team members that I got to serve with. And left that back in 2016, decided to come back to the financial industry. And really that was a matter of, my kids were 1 and 3 at the time, and I wanted to be able to have more flexibility, spend more time with them. And in fact, I've known you for a good bit of the time since then. So you've kind of seen them grow up. They're 8 and 6 now. So it's been a good decision to do that. I'm still, like I said, it's been part or full time engaged in ministry since then. I still do a pretty good bit of ministry alongside my financial practice now. But, I started Congevity. And so, that's my story. I'm sure you'll have some questions about what Congevity is, so I won't get into that too much. But I got back into the insurance financial services business so that I could spend more time with my family and go back to being kind of an entrepreneur, living the entrepreneurial life, which is, it's not for everyone, but for those of us who it is for, it's kind of the only way to live,
That's a great way to put it. Rick, you and I know each other from a couple of different organizations, but I
Mhm.
know you are actually the one who shared with me about Entrepreneurs Organization and the Accelerator Program.
Right.
What has that Accelerator Program meant to you, especially when I hear you talk about your desire to be an entrepreneur? I mean, from when you were in college, that you
Mm.
started your business or started down the road of entrepreneurship before you even graduated. So, what has EOA meant for you as you've worked with other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, well, for people who aren't familiar with EO, Entrepreneurs Organization is a global organization
Mhm.
of sort of a network of business owners who employ, millions of people around the world, and
Yes.
it's really designed to be sort of a peer group to support one another. And then
Yes.
they launched a program called Accelerator. Most of those businesses are $1 million in revenue or above, which tends to be sort of a tipping point for viability, like long-term
Mhm.
viability. If you're doing $1 million or more, you're going to make it,
Yeah.
unless you really, do something wrong. But $1 million is kind of a point of viability. But there's a struggle point between roughly 250,000 and a million, where you got to
Mhm.
get some things in place, some infrastructure in place. And so EO created a program called Accelerator to help those businesses with everything from personnel to strategy, execution, cash flow, how to manage those things that all entrepreneurs
Yes.
struggle with. And that's really something that all entrepreneurs can grow in at any level. But to go from below to above that $1 million level, you really need some help in that area. So Accelerator is designed to do that. So local chapters, in our case, the Birmingham chapter, will launch an accelerator program as sort of I guess, the minor leagues or the developmental program for their EO chapter. And so I believe it was 2018. We launched the accelerator program here
Yes.
in January of that year, and I got to be a part of that initial class and have been serving with them since then. Bringing in new members,
Mhm.
helping other businesses become a part of it, and it's just been the best thing in the world for my business. It wasn't always Congevity. In fact, I was doing a lot more kind of general insurance work.
Yes.
It's always been in the life insurance space, not so much in property and casualty, insuring homes and autos, but it was more in the individual side. And I began to enjoy the work and want to serve more with business owners. So Accelerator, if you ask how important it's been to my business, honestly, Congevity wouldn't exist as it is
Hmm.
without that network of peers who helped me kind of think through what it should look like and how we should change it and what we should target.
Yes.
Congevity was really born out of those discussions.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that part of the story, Rick.
Yeah.
Um, when you look at the different things in life that are so important to you,
Mhm.
ministry, whether that's serving in an official capacity or in a volunteer capacity, your role as a dad, your role
Mhm.
as a business owner. How do you see those three roles really intertwining with each other for you as an entrepreneur?
I love this question because I think that it's something that almost everybody struggles with, especially if you're busy, and I think that that's kind of our culture. Everyone's busy. If you ask someone how they're doing, like the cliche answer is, oh, I'm just busy. I'm busy, busy, busy. So that's kind of our culture. And I
Yes.
think one of the questions that if you really sit down, you get honest with people, they want to know is, how do you manage a lot of different roles? How do you wear so
Mhm.
many different hats?
Yes.
And one of the things that I learned years ago, and I had a mentor actually teach me this, is you're not three or four or five different versions of yourself who do different things. I'm just Rick. So I'm not Rick the dad. I'm not Rick the business owner. I'm not Rick the youth baseball coach. I'm just Rick. And so everywhere that those things overlap in my life or don't overlap, I'm still just me. So how that plays out practically is, if I can bring my kids to work with me, if there's an appropriate time for that to happen, I do it. If I can bring, my hobbies, like I like to hunt, I'm engaging my children with that. My son does that with me, and it's becoming something that we bond over. So my son is playing baseball, so I played baseball, and I was a
Mhm.
decent baseball player, so I decided to coach a few years ago. I have a leadership background. I played the game. It's like, well, I could probably learn to coach. You know, um, probably the worst overestimation of my skills ever was deciding that I could definitely coach little league baseball, but it has been extremely rewarding. And I look at that like, uh, how important it is to me is like, I'm not coaching. I told someone this last night, another dad that I coach with is I'm not coaching future major leaguers. I'm coaching future men. Baseball is just a
Yes.
means to the end.
Mhm.
I get to use baseball to teach young boys, skills that are going to help them be better men. So I guess that's a long way to say everything that I do is a way to take anything that's been put into me, whether things that I've learned on my own or things that other mentors and people have poured into me, and just let it go out from me to impact other people, whether that's through my business, whether that's through coaching, whether it's through ministry, whatever it is. I want to be kind of a conduit, a vessel that things can go out from.
Yes.
I guess that's a summary of it.
I love the analogy with Little League Baseball. You're not coaching future, major league players. You're coaching future men. So if we apply that analogy to businesses, and especially the small to medium sized businesses that you work with, if you work with a business, you're not helping them become Microsoft or the next Amazon. You're helping them prepare for the future.
That's right.
And what does that future mean for a business owner that's worked hard to get it up and running, or maybe they're running a business that their family has invested many, many, many years in? What are you helping business owners do that's kind of similar to what you're doing with those young boys that you're teaching?
Yeah, that's a great kind of segue and connection to that same philosophy with coaching. Some of these businesses that I get to work with, they may someday become Fortune 500 companies. They may someday become the next Microsoft. You never know. Just like one of these kids might become a major leaguer. Probably not. They're going to need a new coach and probably a lot of other things to get there. But these businesses, 100% of them do have a future. They employ people. They have a family. Most all of them would say their business is their greatest asset. They want to retire off of it. What we found, and it's really one of the reasons that I got so engaged with this part of the industry, serving business owners, is that most of them don't have a plan to withdraw that capital that they've invested into it. They poured blood, sweat, and tears, is the old cliche, into their business, but they don't know how to get it back out of it. And so if you asked a simple question to most business owners, if something happened to you today, what would happen to the business? And if they're honest and they really think about it, it doesn't take them long to realize, like, well, it would probably start to decline pretty fast, particularly depending on how engaged they are. If like they're the lead salesperson, which in a lot of cases they are, it's gonna start to decline. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of people in what you do that they're the lead salesperson. So it's gonna start to decline. And they feel like it's the biggest asset. It's the thing that they built for their family. Well, we try to help them build a strategy so that if something does happen to them, not only first and foremost does their family get what they deserve, what they've built for them through proper planning. It's pretty simple planning, but we try to make sure that it's there. And they say less than a quarter of businesses have true planning in place for that. We try to make sure that that's there. But then also business owners want to know that they've built a legacy, something that's going to last beyond them. So A, we want to make sure their family gets the value that they've built. And then B, that there's some legacy that goes beyond them. So that's where we want to have a succession plan so that their family gets the value. But then we want to make sure that we're doing leadership development, training, key person identification work so that they protect and retain the right people on their team. So that's the kind of work that we're doing, if that answers that question.
Yeah, no, it does. And Rick, when you say legacy, what are the options for that? I mean, is it one size fits all, or are there many different ways, a business can leave that legacy?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in my perspective and Congevity's business model is we do three things: succession, protection, retention. Succession planning is kind of like having a will for your business. You want to know, like, if I died or I was disabled or I couldn't come back to this place, what would happen? Protection is you probably have 2 or 3 people in a given business who are just, it would be detrimental if you lost them. And so we try to make sure that we put a protection plan in place so that if something did happen, the business is protected financially and has a fallback plan. And then retention is making sure that you keep them. I mean, you can do certain things, whether through bonus strategies that have a sort of golden handcuff approach. If you've heard that term before, you can do golden handcuffs. You don't have to be a Fortune 500 company to do that. You can have golden handcuff strategies for key people. You can have literally a 3-employee company and put golden handcuffs on that one person that you couldn't live without. And I've done that for a lot of companies. So it's not a one size fits all, but there are some common themes. Like, the common themes are, the business owner needs to make sure that he's protecting his family's asset. And then there are key people in almost every company that can help create a legacy. They could become the person who takes it to the next level after that business owner either retires or leaves. And the business owner is always going to leave. I tell business owners, you're leaving one day in a really nice car. It might be a hearse and it might just be a really nice car, but you're leaving one day. So, make a plan for that and make sure that you control how that exit happens.
That's awesome, Rick. Well, if you're listening to this and you think, you know what, maybe I should talk to Rick, you can reach him. You can reach out to him on LinkedIn, follow him there. You can go to www.congevity.com or pick up the information there scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Listen, Rick, thanks so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed the conversation. And for all of you listening, thanks for listening in. 2 weeks from today, we will be back. We have a conversation with Christy Birch with JDA Promotional. So until next time.